First of all, I'd like to apologize. I never meant to start an international incident. I wouldn't have even thought it possible. I'm no politician or diplomat, not a mercenary or arms dealer. I don't have a face that would launch one ship, much less 1,000. It's a story, like many in history, of unintended consequences. The invention of the printing press, which Gutenberg thought would make the Catholic Bible more affordable, instead helped fuel the Protestant Revolution. Widespread use of the smallpox vaccine saved many children of Northern Europe, but it also led to population explosion, food shortages, and a wave of starving immigrants in the following century.
Now, I didn't invent anything. In fact, I was simply playing a little practical joke. I have a friend, Nora, who's Albanian, and we tease each other a lot. She was bad-mouthing the Vikings, my people, one time, and I decided to create a fictional relative for her. She's done some genealogy, and much of it is public on Ancestry.com. She never considered the implications of that because it gets complicated fast. Like the old joke, why did Facebook go public? They couldn't figure out the privacy settings either. Similarly, the internet was designed for sharing information, and so sharing is easy to do. Anyone can create a website, and not only that, anyone can edit Wikipedia. In fact, a bored teenager wrote literally 50% of the Scots language entries. And he didn't even speak the language. He just imitated examples he'd seen elsewhere, and most of them were simply wrong. From Ancestry.com, I took the names of one of Nora's great-great-uncles and started expanding the family tree. Either editing existing websites or making my own. Now, this may sound like a lot of work, but I had help. You see, with tools like ChatGPT to write biographies for me, and Midjourney and DALL-E to generate photos, and Google Translate to convert them to Bosnian, Lithuanian, German, and Serbo-Croatian, I created a fictional lineage with pictures in all sorts of historical situations and linked them all together. Now, this may sound rather innocuous, and it is to a point, though you might consider that if one person with one laptop can rewrite a tiny sliver of history in a few hours, imagine what corporations or nation-states could do with the same tools and much more resources to command. Possibilities make Orwell's Ministry of Truth puny in comparison. At any rate, things probably would not have gotten out of hand but for two things. One, I had an overseas collaborator, and two, the punchline of my joke was that Nora's new relative was going to be a close friend of Gavrilo Princip, the assassin of Archduke Franz Ferdinand, and thus to have had a direct hand in starting World War I. It's pretty good, right? I'd met Nora's cousin Leka on one of his visits to the US. He lives in Durrës on the Albanian coast, and he was just as quick with the joke as Nora. I'd let him in on the plan to give it a more authentic flavor. He and I spoke several times about the invented history. Then one day, he emailed me saying he could provide a physical relic to make sure the story was believable. And I decided to combine pleasure with pleasure and visit him in Durrës. It was on that trip that things began to go very, very wrong. The first inkling was in London, where I changed planes. While Leka and I had been speaking about build up to World War I, we'd used phrases like anarchist, bombing, secret society, weapons, and war. Because this was an international call, it was subject to surveillance by various governments, and voice recognition of some of those terms had gotten me on an anti-terrorist blacklist. Cross-referencing the databases of my phone number and address yielded my photograph, and as I stepped into customs, the airport face scanner alerted someone that I was to be questioned. Escorted to a sub-basement deep below Heathrow, I was interviewed by British intelligence for several hours, who eventually decided I wasn't a threat. My release from interrogation, however, did not correlate with the removal of my suspicious profile in the shared international database I was now a part of. Even worse, they placed a spyware app on my phone, not that that made me at the airport in Tirana, and we parted with the Italians on the Durrës beaches to make up for my lost travel day. As we dined on risotto and tiger prawns, he pulled up the image of an antique pistol on his phone and showed it to me, like I had found a weapon on a gray market collector's site on the dark web, and after discussing it with him, I made the purchase. The cost was only a fractional amount of Bitcoin, though the electrical power required to run that single transaction on the cryptocurrency servers could serve the average Albanian home for about 6 months. By its nature, the dark web is meant to be anonymous. But just as what happens behind a closed door is hidden, the fact that someone enters the door is not. I'd made no attempt to hide my activity since I wasn't presumably breaking the law. However, the time and place that I'd entered the dark web was filed in a government computer. The significance of the .38 caliber Browning FN 1910 I bought was that it was the same model used by Princip and his Black Hand collaborators. We would pass this off as additional proof to Nora that her fictional relative was linked to the assassination. After we picked it up from a dingy antique shop in the warehouse district, I wasn't thinking about cameras. Why should I? They're so common as to be invisible. Phone cameras, dash cams, doorbell cameras, and the granddaddy of them all, CCTV, which, in this case, was equipped with object recognition technology. The fact that I was flashing the gun around was now noted in some police database. What I was thinking about was my trip home. How, I asked Lecca, was I supposed to get the pistol back into the United States? I certainly couldn't carry it back with me on the plane. He reassured me there would be no problem. As a port city, Durrës was full of import-export dealers, and he knew one that could handle it. I merely had to put my name as owner on the export license. The day before I was about to leave, Lecca took me to his daughter's school. During the pandemic, Albania had developed a brand new electronic learning system, now in use by 500,000 students. Eager to show off her class's abilities, the teacher had the kids look me up online. After a flurry of activity, at least 3 of them managed to discover that I was wanted for questioning by the Albanian police. A hurriedly embarrassed goodbye followed, and Lecca and I checked in with the authorities, but not before I informed the American embassy what was happening. It turns out that while I spent time touring with Lecca, the international surveillance machinery was grinding away. My application to export the pistol filed under weapons by the exporter had triggered a match with the still active anti-terrorist file. License plate scanners in the city noted my car in non-tourist locations, specifically parked near a warehouse owned by an international arms smuggler named Nikola Vukovic. When Lecca and I attempted an airship, the British spyware app forwarded the pictures I took to the fighter jets as suspicious. All this had been collated inside the Soviet-era brutalist buildings where the state intelligence machinery had seen fit to issue the warrant with my name on it. After many phone calls involving the U.S. consulate, the antiques dealer, British intelligence, and several other organizations whose names were not revealed to me, I was released and relieved to head home. I didn't watch the in-flight movies on the way back, but instead wondered about the technologies we put in place almost without thinking. Do we really know what we're doing? Has technology outrun our societal systems? 75 years ago, we didn't know what DNA was. Today, a high school student can do a CRISPR experiment and directly edit genes. What questions should we be asking? Many people feel that technology is neutral. After all, a drone can carry medicine or carry missiles. It can hunt for earthquake survivors or spy on ordinary citizens. But how do the technologies we adopt change us? Socrates asked us to consider the invention of white writing and how it might lead to the deterioration of memory. And the technology and management of fire changed our bodies in the most literal of ways, giving us smaller teeth and bigger brains. It also changed us socially, helping to foster community and ideas. And the car, widespread adoption of vehicles led to changes in how we design and structure our cities and homes. I wonder about progress. And if it's true, as Ogden Nash joked, that progress might have been all right once, but it's gone on way too long. Maybe technical progress and human progress are not the same thing. Albert Einstein pointed to this distinction when he said something like, "I fear the day when technology surpasses our humanity." Are we there yet? I don't know. What I am certain is this: we have a choice. When thinking about technology, its pros and cons, we must never lose sight of asking the question, what kind of world do we want to live in? When I returned home, the antique pistol was waiting for me. I gave it to Nora and showed her the extended family tree. She wasn't embarrassed at all. She reveled in the audacity of having an anarchist in the family, even one who might have started a war. Another unintended consequence. I haven't had the heart to tell her that his biography was invented by a computer. At least not so far.